recording on my end now. So Rick, just let us know when we're. Bill, do you have the Open Public Meetings Act announcement in front of you?
No.
I left my copy at the office. Let me see if I can find it. I can wing it, I think. And hello, good evening. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Adjustment for July 20th, 2022. This is a virtual meeting using the WebEx platform. There's a link available on the agenda page on the Board of Adjustment page of the township website. This meeting has been advertised in conformance with the Open Public Meetings Act by sending a copy to the Star Ledger and the Montclair Times, as well as posting the schedule of meetings outside of the municipal building at 205 Claremont Avenue. I think that covers it.
I just put everything.
I'm going to go ahead and call roll now. Mr. Harrison?
I'm here.
Mr. McCulloch?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Present.
Ms. Harris?
Here.
Ms. Martineau?
Here.
Mr. Vieira is excused this evening, as is Mr. Simon and Mr. Caulfield. Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
All right, that's roll.
Okay, we have the minutes of the June 15th meeting. I just have one change on page 4, line 35. Add after recommended by the HPC and to preclude the use of the cabana as a dwelling unit.
Okay.
Anyone else with any changes to the minutes?
No.
Someone want to move approval with that change?
Move approval as amended by the chair.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? And then we have the resolution for the Johnson application on Upper Mountain Avenue. I don't have any changes. Does anyone else have any changes? Someone want to move the resolution?
Move approval of the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and then we have the request for an extension of approval. Minutes ago I had. This is the approval for Michael Bender at 18 Waterbury Road. Tommy, how long did he ask for?
I believe 6 months.
Okay. So that would bring us, why don't we do through the end of January? Since that'll bring us past whenever our January meeting will be. Any discussion?
No.
Someone want to move granting the extension until January 31st, 2023?
Move the extension of the application 2732 to January.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm checking my correspondence. He requested a full year. I'm sorry about that.
Which he can ask for under the ordinance.
Right. Okay, so we'll do it in through July 31st, 2023.
Right. So I move approval of the extension request application 2732 at the end of July 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the first application is that of Anthony Pisa for property at 214 Walnut Street, which is designated as block 1509 and lot 31 on the township tax maps. The applicant is requesting a variance to permit the expansion of a non-conforming three-family dwelling that will remain three families on the property. Are taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes.
And Mr. Pisa, are you here?
You're on mute, Tommy. Tommy, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Mr. Pisa, you need to activate your camera and your microphone and turn them both on. You're a panelist now, so you should be able to do that at the bottom of the screen. All right, looks like he's activated them. Now unmute yourself.
Got it. Now can you hear me?
I
Yes.
hear you, yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so I go?
Okay, well,
Yeah,
first we
Mr.
have to
Pisa, hold
swear
on
you
one
in.
second, just before you start. I don't know, Bill, did you want to read about the application? Did you go do that already?
I went through it.
Okay, so Mr. Pisa, this is an application for what's called a D variance. It's an expansion of a non-conforming use. And because of that, you need 5 affirmative votes. The board ordinarily contains 7 regular members. We do have alternates. Unfortunately, tonight, there was only a total of 5 members present. So you really have 3 choices, Mr. Pisa. You can say, I'd rather not go forward with any testimony tonight. I want to go to a subsequent meeting and hope I have more than 5 members, so I have a better chance of getting the 5 votes. Second choice would be to put in your testimony tonight and then choose at the end whether or not you want to ask for a vote or to carry it. Or 3, just say you're going forward and you're going to get a vote no matter what.
So I believe this should be a pretty simple application. I do understand what you're saying. Of course, 7 people would be better. I do understand that I could go to the end and then carry it over if it doesn't seem like it's going my way.
So,
Like I said, go ahead.
so it sounds like you want to start, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to swear you in.
Sure.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes, I do.
State your name and address.
Anthony Pisa, 214 Walnut Street, Montclair, New Jersey, 07042.
And Mr. Pisa, do you have any witnesses on your behalf tonight, or are you giving it the sole testimony?
No, I could give sole testimony.
Okay, so why don't you proceed then?
Okay, I guess I should start off. I'm a general contractor, I'm a developer. Been doing this over 40 years. I've developed numerous projects in Montclair alone. I also have my public works license. I could build your schools, I could build your municipal buildings. So I have a pretty good grasp of what we're going through here and how to develop it. I also been told through zoning, architectural, and from people in the town. I went into zoning when we first were going through this. Boss Iona submitted it. So I went into zoning and, hey, if this is a 2-family, if you say this is a 2-family, I don't have to go in front of the board meeting. We'll give you permission to do it. You don't have to go no further. So, but it's a 3-family. Zoning changed. So here I am coming in front of you. Without that, like I said, I would have to ask for permission. We could just go get building permits. So with that being said, I would show you if you look at the front of it. Now, do I have control over this cursor or no, Tommy? No, right?
You do not. I only have control. So just tell me, this is everything that you sent me yesterday. So just tell me what you want me to put.
Sure. If you come through the front of of the building and by the front porch. That's the only way to get in at this point. Going up the stairs, going to the second and third floor. So basically the first floor is a horseshoe going around you go in one side and you go around the back where there's a butler's pantry and you come around to the other side. So what we're proposing, if you look on I can't read what that says on there, but if you look at.
This is the existing floor plan he was just referencing. I'm sorry about that. And then
That's okay. Thank you.
this is the proposed.
And
So-
Tommy, just for reference, is this sheet SK 101?
Yes,
And
Yeah.
and it's dated January 18, 2022 with no revision date, is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So what we're proposing, there's an existing, actually, Tommy, can you go down to, just so we get a view of what's existing now?
I have the existing floor plans up, Mr. Pisa.
It's on the last page, 102, existing 102. Existing north elevation. Here you go. So see the middle picture there is existing now. And if you look to the right there about the west elevation, you can see there's a 5-foot bump out on the plans, and that's how you would get into the backside of the first floor right now. There's a deck that you go on, and then you get into the first floor. So I went through with Paul there to make it look like it conforms, like it was never even added on. If we go back to the second 102. Thank you. That's what we're gonna make it look like now. So the middle, if you go up, if you're coming out of the driveway, you would go right towards, you would go to the right, go up that set of platform and go in the door, and that would bring you up to the second floor. So as you can see on the proposed west elevation there, it's right in line with the other one. It doesn't stick out any further, doesn't come into the driveway anymore. Go to the left, you go into my apartment, you go to the right, you go upstairs. This would help dramatically for the people who are moving in. So if I want, a big part of this, if I didn't want to come in front of the board again, once again, even though it is a 3-family, we could construct that out of wooden steps on the outside of the building. And I wouldn't have to be in front of the board. To me, that would be more dangerous. And there are pictures of it across the street, which I'll get into later. So I'm just trying to make it more safety wise and a better quality of living for the weather and everything. And it's a better way, instead of people going around to the front of the house, they could access their apartment through the backside. So, I mean, like I said, it's pretty cut and dry. There isn't anything else part of this part of the structure that it's 5 feet out across the backside of the building. And going upstairs, it doesn't change everything. It goes right up to the second floor landing, right where the existing 2 windows would be. If there's anyone that has any questions before I get on to show you the next exhibit of what's across the street or what's behind me, that shows.
Just keep going. We'll ask questions when you're done.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so tell me if you could, so basically right here, that's all there is on this application. The stairwell going up, that would bring them into the second floor. There is one going down from my apartment that goes down to that door that you see that would take me down to the basement. And it would take me, either I could access the basement from the outside or the inside. Like when I go in the back door out here on the left, You go down to the right, it'll go down to the door, the main door going outside, or it would go straight down. That would access the basement for me also. So it's a convenience of that also. If you could go to the pictures of the rendering, Tommy, number 2 and 3. So that's directly, yeah, no, yes, no. The pictures of the, yeah. Nope. One more, 2 more back. Yes. So that's directly across the street, one house over to the left. That I could put on the back of the house. Like I said, I wouldn't have to be in front of the board. To me, that's more dangerous, ice, rain. It's not closed in. What I'm proposing, like I said, it cost me more money and gone through a lot more. But to me, it's definitely a better quality of life and better aesthetics for the house. If you look at the next picture, please, Tom. That is directly behind me. So again, that's a second set of steps made out of wood that they just put a roof over it, put some plywood on the side, some seating. Same thing. Something that I wouldn't have to come before you. Would I ever put that? No. What I'm trying to propose, to me, benefits the neighborhood, benefits everything around here, benefits the safety of the personnel that are going to rent apartments, as well as benefiting mine that they wouldn't have to come through the middle of an apartment. They have their own entrance, their own privacy. I mean, on this part of it, that's pretty much all that I could give you on the architectural part of it. I could get into the site plan. If anyone has any questions about it, like I said, to me, it's pretty simple. It's just a simple staircase going up the back, whether it be closed in or not. If it wasn't closed in, I wouldn't have to be in front of the board. But to me, it's a better quality of life for everyone. It's better for my neighbors. They agree with me. So I guess it would be up to you to tell me your opinions on this, or if there's any questions that you have about this project before we get into the site plan, if you want. Oh, Tommy, I'm sorry, can you go back one more to the picture? Yes, the blue. So this is the house that I just built in Montclair. We're just finishing it now. A brand new home. This is basically what I want it to look like. Coloring, the AZAC, maintenance free. Just give you, it has all the new 400 series Anderson windows, till wash. Just a rendering basically of what I want to have this right now. You can see on the other pictures of the architectural plans what it actually looks like. It's aluminum siding over and over. Insulation under it. It's just a mess right now. Old windows, the windows, I don't even know, 40 years old. There were replacements on most of them, but the picture looks better than it actually does look. But like I said, everything will be new. I actually went in front of the historic society because this is in the historic district. They agree that this would be a definite improvement. There is a letter, I'm sure that you have, or Tommy would be able to share with you, that confirms that they agree that it's an improvement. It would be better for a safety value for the tenants going forward. And it's in line with what they would recommend for adding on to the house for in the historic area. That being said, any questions?
Mr. McCulloch, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I want to make sure that I understand what I'm looking at here. So on the 3rd floor, what's going on the 3rd floor now? Is that a separate unit, or what is that?
Wait, say that again?
The 3rd floor.
Yes.
So is that residential at this point, or what is it?
Oh, yeah, everything's residential. It's a legal three-family. It's been there for over 75 years, according to, Frank Mazzio, who I bought it from. He was a little boy when his father converted it into, and they bought it and converted it to a legal three-family back then.
So what will be the access to the third floor after the addition?
If you go into, see them two windows in the middle of the house? There's a landing there that actually, if we could go back to the architectural. There's a landing there that the new staircase will go right into. See that? And then there it is, see?
So is that from the front of the house, or that's from the?
No, that's the rear of the house.
That's the rear.
Yeah, if you look at the one in the middle, that's the proposal of the new staircase. So you're walking up the stairs to that window that was in the middle of the house. And that's an existing landing that's in there now on the second floor. So you're tying into the second floor landing. We don't have to go to the third floor. It's an interior staircase going up to the third floor. So it doesn't, like the outside of this addition does not need to go to the third floor because it's hitting the second floor landing that's existing. It would be my ceiling of the first floor where I reside. And then there's another staircase that goes up to the third floor from that landing.
So there would be two staircases then.
Yes, the one is going to be outside that we're proposing.
Which will be
And then
enclosed, right?
It leads you to the second floor landing, which you walk straight in, and then you would turn and go up to the next staircase to bring you to the third floor. It's a switchback staircase that you see there. So it's that staircase is interior in the house.
And the third floor is a, what is that, a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom?
They're all 2 bedrooms.
You said 3 bedrooms?
2 bedroom?
Bedrooms, okay.
I'm sorry, what did you say? They're all 2 bedrooms?
Yes, they're all 2 bedrooms.
And so the occupants of the second floor and the first floor, would they have access then to the third floor or not?
No, only, so that staircase is a private entrance for the second and third floor.
Okay. And vice versa.
Floor would go, see the deck to the left? When you go to the left there, that would be my entrance. My private entrance to go into the first floor.
Okay.
The whole image on the left-hand side is the first floor.
Right.
The one in the middle is the staircase going upstairs and then into the hallway landing for the second and third floor.
The second.
They don't have to come through my apartment anymore to have their own entrance, and it's a lot, instead of walking around the front of the house, now they have their own entrance to get from the back to their cars.
Right. And then the basement that belongs to the first floor apartment, is that right?
Yes, yep, if you see, when you walk in the back door, you go up the deck, you go in the back door, and there's to the right there. It's a little confusing, but if you go to the right there, you see that where it looks like a door on the right-hand side? Then you would go down them steps. You're basically going underneath the steps that are going up. That's how it works.
I understand, okay.
And you go to the bottom and it brings you into the basement, which would only be accessible from there.
And the basement is also living space?
No, that's the old, it's the old basement. It's not living space at this time.
Okay, thank you. I think those are my questions for you.
Okay, Ms. Harris, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So the residents on the second and third floor, they won't have any access to their apartments from the front of the house.
No, they would have, their access would be a private entrance to the back of the house. There also, doesn't show it on here, but on the pictures, the two upstairs have an egress. There's a fire escape, which is by the code for them to get out if there ever was fire.
And where is that plan?
If you look at page, actually, it's on the rendering. So Tommy, it's on, it probably shows on, I don't know if you see it on the picture. On the pictures that you took, are you able to put them up? If you look at the pictures from the report,
Yeah, give me 1 sec. I'll pull that up.
sure, thank you.
Yeah, it's the next to last picture in your report.
Yep. There it is, page 12. There you go.
Okay,
That's a mandatory egress for the two apartments going upstairs.
okay. And then can you just go through the site plan, please, with focus on the engineer's report?
I'm sorry, I'm hearing like an echo.
Oh, could you go over the site plan, please?
Sure, does anyone else have any questions on the architectural?
You're on mute, Bill.
We're good?
Okay, we'll finish with Ms. Harris's questions and then we'll go on.
Okay, so as far as the site plan. So can we, here goes Paul Anderson. Done other projects that we did the blue house that you were just looking at, a double lot that we did in Montclair. He did the site plans for us. We had our engineer at the time, because Paul was busy, but then Paul turned this in for me to get it revised so we could move forward on this. So you pull into the driveway on the left-hand side there. You go straight in, come by the garages, there's 4 parking spots there. That's 2 bedrooms per unit. As you know, you need 2 spots per unit. So there's 4 parking spots in the driveway and 2 in the 2-car garage. We kept it to a minimum to keep down as they asked for impervious coverage. We do have 18 feet. There is 27 feet behind it for a turnaround. The driveway is 9 feet. On the garage, and there was a question about lighting, saying that it might be too high over the fence. On the garage, we're proposing, we'll have a picture of we're going to use motion lights, which are fully adjustable. They're ring motion lights, they're fully adjustable, you can direct them in any directions or height or anything, so it's not like a standard light that's got to be perfectly set. You could move these either which way. Both of my neighbors have the exact same lights, we just put them on a new construction. 90% of the homes in the backs, we use these. Workable from your phone, or as you know, with the motion, night to dusk, dawn, it goes on and off. As far as here's the rain garden that's proposed. So everyone likes them a lot better than the seepage pits for the impervious coverage that it's taken up with only 579 square feet of impervious coverage. There is over 80, I think it's like 85 to 90 square lineal feet of yard left behind us with grass and everything. So on the side of the garage there was a question about where would you put snow? That's where all the snow would go. There's plenty of room back there with snow. I also would propose there is a perennial garden that one of the plans that I drew up, I had actually the landscaper, Hillcrest Farms, draw something quick for me just to get you show, there's a perennial gardens. And Bill, you have been at the property. I don't know how much it was grown at that time. And we discussed this at the other meeting. There's a 4-foot perennial garden that runs down the whole side of the neighbor's fence and across the whole back. So on the back side, I propose to put up arborvitae trees to block that eyesore of staircase that is behind me and back there. So there is no other tree. There was a question about existing trees. There is no other trees. I propose to put somewhere around 7 arborvitaes behind it. It would, it's a very good tree. I've had them in my other properties. They grow big enough and healthy enough to block and make a little screening so I don't have to see behind the mess back there.
Was there existing parking on this property before, besides the garage?
Excuse me?
Was there existing parking besides the garage on the property?
I'm sorry, I can't hear it. For some reason, it keeps echoing.
That's fine, you can.
Something about parking, I hear. Go ahead.
Was there existing parking?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's always, believe it or not, he's always fit the cars in there. He's always rented it out to 2 bedrooms. He's always had 4 cars. I don't know. I was never here. To me, it was a little tight. That's why I proposed to expand the parking.
Yeah. Tommy, do you want to put the survey up?
Yes, sure. 1 second.
So if you see the line right there, that's where the existing parking. But he always told me they fit in here. To me, it was very tight. That's why I'm proposing to put the 4 extra, like extend them further out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Moore, do you have any questions?
Not at the moment. They've been answered. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, is Ms. Martineau, do you have any questions?
I do not.
I have a few questions. The Historic Preservation Commission had one recommendation. It's number 5 on their report concerning the Corbell's brackets at the soffits. They say those should not be included unless when you're removing the aluminum siding, it looks like they were part of the original design of the house. Do you have any issue with complying with that condition?
Oh, not at all, Bill. You actually saved me money. You know what? It was kind of funny because I'm like, I'll put them up to make it look more historic to fit in. And he brought that up. I'm like, I'm fine with that. I don't need to put them. Save money on the project. No problem at all. I appreciate it.
Have you had an opportunity to review the latest report from the engineer dated July 18th?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and do you have a problem with complying with those conditions in her report?
So, I mean, everything I think I've gone through actually answered them. The only thing I didn't answer was about what are the pipe detail. We always put it in sand or we use QT or RCA on top of it. But 90% of the time, I wouldn't run it directly through the driveway. We would find an alternative route against the building then going out. But either way, it's totally compactable, the sand, where we put gas pipes, we put water pipes, sewer lines, and then we put RCA on top of it. So it does not settle. Sure, that's what her comment. As far as anything else, I believe I've covered, unless there's something I'm missing. The other thing that I would probably say, which doesn't make a little sense to me, was number 15 and 16. The pavement curbing, I mean, all that's done by them. They want to come out their office. We usually have the town engineer would come out, or the building inspector does it. This way, there's no fees incurred on it. I don't know how they work it, but usually we get a bill from them if there is. Either way, you're asking for the same thing as an as-built. As-bills are not really required unless you're brought up to property lines, and there's a tendency that you might go over it. We're well within our property lines, and for parking space is the only thing that is put out beyond that. I don't believe an as-built for me to spend $2,000, $1,500 for an as-built is required when the building inspector is going to check it, the town engineer could check it. That's the only concern that I would have. It's just a waste of money. And like you can see on the plans, we're not even close to the setbacks of the property.
I
But
think,
everything
I think
else-
what she was aiming for in terms of the partial as-built was the improvements to the parking area and the drainage to confirm that those are conforming, right, versus the building, which, as you said, the construction code official will confirm you built according to code. But I think she's interested in the site plan aspects of the improvements you're proposing.
Yeah, I mean, if that, I mean, like I said, the building inspector usually checks all them anyway. But either way, if it's that, if I could eliminate that, that's fine. You know, if it's a mandatory, hey, let's get it over with, we're approving. If you say, okay, then we're okay.
The other question I had, her original report recommended you're planting shrubbery along the eastern property line. When I had gone out there before the Development Review Committee meeting, I had observed that there were nice perennials planted along that area, and I thought they should maintain. But then when I got Tommy's report, and I went out there again today, that beginning stretch of that garden has been really chewed up, and the picture Tommy took that showed the fire escape showed there was a bunch of building materials stored in that area. So it looks to me that you're, I'm not going to go back to her shrub, but that you're going to have to replant perennials along that eastern property line from the back of the house going to the fence in the rear. Most of it, once you get about 20 feet from the house, it all looks like it did this I guess I was out there in June. But it, that first 20, 25 feet is really chewed up.
Bill, I agree with you 100%. And the reason behind it all, I know it's, that whole area's gotta be, when you go to develop any properties or dig, that whole area is gonna be raised with the curbing. We have to dig out 8 to 10 inches of the topsoil out of that area next to it. So it's gonna disturb that perennial garden no matter what, because we have to put down QP and, underneath the asphalt. So, in the backside, like you said, after you go past that driveway, there's, I don't even know, maybe 100 different perennials back there. I was gonna take them from there and transplant them in that area that you are talking. Yes, no question about it.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Are there any members of the public who have any questions or any statements about the application, any testimony? If you have any comments or questions whatsoever, this is the opportunity to do that. Tommy will unmute anyone who is on the WebEx. If you're watching on the town's YouTube station or on channel 34, there's a call-in number, which we will post on the screen in a minute. Pause a little bit to give you an opportunity to dial the number and then enter that very nice long code. So wait a little bit. So if, there are any members of the public who have comments, questions, statements, testimony, anything about the application, this is your opportunity. If you're on WebEx, you could indicate now, you're unmuted, that you want to participate and speak up. And if you're watching on YouTube or Channel 34, call in as quickly as you can.
We don't have any attendees currently to speak on it. We have, and nobody has called in at this point.
Okay, we'll give you another 30 seconds or so to call in if you're interested. Okay, Mr. Pisa, as Mr. Sullivan indicated at the beginning of your presentation, there are only 5 of us and you need 5 votes to get an approval. Do you want to proceed with our voting on the application tonight, or do you want to hold off until a future meeting when there presumably will be more of us?
I mean, like I said, I believe there is no question that this should go through. I know if I said this was a two-family, that I wouldn't even have to be in front of you. I mean, that should carry a lot of weight to the Historic Society. I would appreciate your input. That would actually, anybody's input, if there's anything negative, or, I mean, to me, it's all positive, the impact to the community and the neighborhood and the house. Anyone have any input as far as what they?
We're going to discuss and vote on the application. Is there anything you want to add before we do that?
What's that?
We are going to now discuss and vote on the application. This is your last chance to say
I
anything.
think I'm pretty good. I think it's, like I said, I think it's a positive thing. The whole house is getting a facelift, that's well needed. It's a 130-year-old home that needs improvements. I think this would improve it drastically and improve the whole outlook of the neighborhood. Like I said, all my neighbors are coming up to be, obviously nobody's contesting it. So I think we're good. I appreciate it.
Okay, we'll start discussion with Mr. McCullough.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm supportive of the application, contingent upon, of course, the conditions laid out by the town's engineer.
Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Ms. Harris?
I'm also in favor of the application. I don't think the addition that he's putting on is very obtrusive, and to his point, if it was a two-family dwelling, he wouldn't even need the variance. So I'm in favor.
Okay, Mr. Moore?
I'm also in favor of the application and share the same sentiments as my colleagues.
Appreciate it.
Ms. Martineau?
Ms. Martineau, you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm in favor of the application.
Thank
No
you.
objections.
Okay, I'm also in favor of the application. I think this is a lawful 3-family house. The applicant's putting an addition that will greatly improve access for the 2nd and 3rd floor tenants and will provide adequate parking on the site, which really doesn't exist currently and realistically, and will improve the appearance of the building. So I think the applicant is easily justified the approval of a variance for expansion of a non-conforming use, and the use itself is not really, it's remaining a 3-family. It's just really an addition to provide better access. We should condition it on condition 5 of the Historic Preservation Commission report. Conditions 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the engineer's report. Condition 6 with just restating the last sentence to say that the applicant shall conform to section 281-83E5 of the site plan review code.
Can you repeat that last one? I'm sorry.
It's the applicant shall comply with that section of the code, and not just that he addressed compliance.
Okay.
Comply with 7 and 8 of the engineer's recommendation. The revised number 9 to indicate, as we discussed, that where necessary, the applicant shall replace perennials along the eastern property line. Adhere to condition 10 of the engineer's report. Adhere to the last sentence of condition 12 of the engineer's report. Adhere to conditions 13, 14, and 15 of the engineer's report, and that adhere to condition 16 with the understanding we're only talking about as-built of the parking area and the stormwater improvements. Any other discussion among board members? And if not, would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve with the conditions stated.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Tommy, I think you have to call the roll, so there's no doubt that there are 5 people voting in favor of the application.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. McCullough,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes. Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Martineau,
Yes.
and it's a unanimous 5 out of 5, 5 to 0.
Go continue improving the property.
I appreciate all the comments, I appreciate everything you have done for me. Thank you, Tommy, for helping me out with the presentation. Simple as it was, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, everyone.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Okay, the next application is that of Brian Day for bulk variances to construct a detached garage on property located at 9 Marquette Road. The property is in the R1 one-family residential zone district and is designated on the township tax maps as lot 67 and block 3802. A variance is requested from Montclair Code section 347-22A to allow an accessory structure to be located in the side yard. A variance is requested from Montclair Code section 347-22F to allow an accessory structure footprint to exceed 24 feet in any one direction. A variance is requested from Montclair Code section 347-348 to allow off-street parking in front of the main building, and a variance is requested Montclair Code section 347-46A1 to allow an accessory structure to be 16 feet 7 inches in height, where a maximum of 15 feet is permitted. Are taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes.
And
Is Mr. Day present?
I am present, but I can't seem to get my video to work for some reason. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Okay.
Can you see the screen? So when you're presenting, you'll be able to describe what we're seeing.
I can see the screen just fine. My architect is also going to be running a good proportion of this presentation, and so she should also be here, Deborah David.
Ms. David, are you here?
Ms. David is on, but it looks like she needs to activate her microphone camera. There we go.
I am here.
Okay, you're gonna have to speak up louder and or be closer to the microphone, please, Ms. David. So let's start off with Mr. Day. Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Brian Day, 9 Marquette Road, Montclair, New Jersey, 07043.
Mr. Day, is there anything you want to say for the board, or you're just going to throw it over to Ms. David?
I'm going to let her begin, and then I will say my part when it's appropriate.
Okay, so Ms. David, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
And state your name and address, please.
Deborah David, 669 Grove Street, Montclair, New Jersey.
Ms. David, you're a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, is that correct?
That is correct.
And your license is in good standing?
It sure is.
Good to hear it. Okay, so you can proceed.
Okay.
Ms. David, just let me know what exhibits you'd like me to pull up.
Can I share mine?
You cannot.
Well then, darn. Well, we're gonna need the drawings. We'll need my drawings and the structural engineer's drawings. Not the structural engineer, the civil engineers. And we'll need some photos.
Okay, I'll have my report up with the photos that I
Okay,
took.
cool. And I do have some photos on my drawings as well. Okay. Well, that's too bad because I have some kind of fun things to add to show y'all, but that's okay. This residence is located in the Fieldstone addition, which is east of Grove and north of Alexander Road and south of the Pearl River. The Fieldstone development was advertised in the 1930 Montclair Times as a new community for Upper Montclair. There were several properties built as part of this development in 1931, including this residence, with a more upscale look with detached garages. There was a gap of building until late 40s, 1949, 1950, where you see the infill of the two-story colonial style with attached garages, which aren't quite as lovely as the original buildings. This lot has an irregular shape and it's a frame building with a stucco exterior at the front and sides. The style of the house is English cottage, which was part of what they were, pushing in their advertising. And it has steep peak roof slopes. With the garage accessory building, we're attempting to replicate as closely as possible the style of the residence to create a pleasing addition to the property. We're requesting 3 variances, which would allow us to construct a 24 by 24 foot detached garage to house not only a parking space, but also a long-term oil recovery system in the side yard of the private residence. The plan would include the removal of the old driveway on the north side of the house, as well as convert the existing garage into an office space. The location, wanted to point out that the physical constraints of the system of the building and the property, the system is the equipment that's going to be required by the DEP. Mr. Day will, or Dr. Day will explain more about why this is necessary, but I'm just going to run through what we're looking to do. Okay, so due to the system and other certain features located on the property, the new building needs to be in the south side yard. groundwater contamination by heating oil from an underground storage tank removed prior to the purchase of the property by the previous owners has been detected and remediation has been required by the State of New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. I think you have a copy of the correspondence with them in your packet. The condition was exacerbated by recent increases in flood activity, and they require a permanent structure with flood mitigating construction to house the apparatus due to concerns of further adverse environmental impact. If flooding is severe, the trailer that they usually use could wash away and even cause more problems. It's anticipated to be in operation for many years, and the placement of the proposed garage is based on the 12-foot required setback on the south property line and the location of the existing swimming pool equipment. These two items are the driving force for the location of the garage. Access to the rear yard is maintained, and spacing between the new structure and the adjacent residence at 5 Marquette Road is consistent with spacing between the other residences in this community. This happens to be a quite large lot, but it's the way that it's configured makes it difficult to access a great portion of it. We'd like to propose a house to house the system in a detached garage to be placed in the side yard of the property. And we feel that this construction of a detached garage instead of a separate pump house in this location will be consistent with overall appearance of the primary dwelling and the overall neighborhood, where a solitary pump house would, and it wouldn't really even be a pump house, it would be a trailer that the DEP would roll onto the site, which would be aesthetically unappealing to everyone. To main visual consistency at the new garage, we would like to replicate the roof slope and style of the main house. Therefore, that's part of the reason that the roof is a little taller than the accessory building. We're asking for relief from the height of an accessory building requirement of the code, because the proportions just otherwise it looks very squatty and it wouldn't be see, I have all these big words in here now. I'm getting confused here. It wouldn't be an appropriate match to the existing house. The parking, because of where the location of the pool equipment, it's difficult for us to push the building back further, closer to the swimming pool. So there's about 4 or 5 feet that a car parked in front of the garage would be in front of the front main plane of the main house. So we're asking for relief from that as well. I think there were a couple of questions that were noted in the engineering report, and I can answer all of those for you now if you would like me to, or unless you would like Dr. Day to explain why we need this pump house.
Why don't you go through the engineer's report?
Okay. Number 2, Paul Anderson, we're also working with Paul Anderson, and he's on vacation this week, so that's why he couldn't attend. Number 2, the new curbing elevations for new driveway apron within the right-of-way area. He will provide this information on the drawings when they're submitted for permit. And and we agree that any approvals on number 3, we agree that any approvals subject to outside are subject to outside agency approvals, which would be the engineering department plus the DEP. Number 5, Paul Anderson will identify all the streets at the driveways and the street trees and optimize piping location to minimize disturbance. Number 6, there's I've submitted some updates with showing the slope of the front to the back. I'm sorry I didn't have that information when I turned the plans in. The mean
I do have
grade.
that, I do have that exhibit, if you would like me to pull it up, and just so the board members know that I do
Okay,
have
that's-
that, and I
that's
can pull
fine.
it up if requested.
Okay, so, and we can look at that in a minute. The mean natural grade is at 225.5. The front facade is at 227.5, so it slopes basically 2 feet to the back of the new proposed garage. We will be glad to wait on number 7, to wait and put the lighting in after 6 months after the CO issuance. That's perfectly fine. And we're going to use Thuja occidentalis arborvitae along the south property line. And that's what I've got for you all. So if you tell me what you would like to talk about.
Okay. Well, why don't we do Mr. Day's testimony, because I suspect there'll be overlap with the requirements for the Trump and Treat facility, and why don't we can ask questions of both of you rather than bouncing back and forth.
Thank you. Everyone can hear me, yes?
Yes.
Okay. We unfortunately came across this problem when our exterior well was found to be full of oil when we tried to change the pump. And we started the remediation and investigation process per the DEP, the state of New Jersey DEP, and some less intrusive methods of remediation were attempted, but found to be insufficient. And as Deborah previously mentioned, a long-term remediation with an oil separation system was required by the state. Now, the physical constraints of this system, you can see on the plans, require approximately 8 to 9 feet room in order to hold it, which is usually housed in a trailer. Due to the location of the previous pump, which is in the approximate location of the planned garage, and the oil plume, which is apparently moving within the groundwater beneath our property, they're requiring that the pump facility and the access points be in the front and the side yard. They're going to be drawing from one near where the proposed garage is, as well as from one near where the current driveway is. And due to physical constraints of the property, it cannot be placed anywhere other than the side yard. And this is mandated by the state. Additionally, because of all the flooding, they're very concerned about placing a trailer there and are also mandating that this be a permanent structure. In conversations with my neighbors to minimize the negative aesthetic impact of essentially having a pump house or a shed in the front yard in our neighborhood, the goal of making this garage is so that we can, in essence, hide the pump house within one of the wells of the 2-car garage while still maintaining the functionality and ability to park our cars, which is why we're here to request not only that we build the building there, because something's going to have to be built there per the state, and the additional relief to allow the roof lines to further match the current dwelling in consistence with the requests of our neighbors to aesthetically have this be in line with the rest of the neighborhood.
If you, Tommy, can you go to the first page, and show the photograph? You zoom in on can you zoom in on the photograph? As you see, this is, there's quite a, and there's also a better photograph, I think, on the elevation page, A 5.0. On the side, there we go. So it gives you more of an idea of the whole width of the property at that point. The garage on the north side, we're going to, we're going to repurpose that as a office / storage space, and then try to, is this the newest one? Yeah, and so basically we're going to infill where the door is, match the stucco siding, and put in a window that would be compatible with all the other windows in the house. This is a real quick update from yesterday. If you go down, scroll down, we've got the front of the property is at 227.5. And in the rear, it's about 225, but I think that we could probably make it 226. I mean, after doing, a foundation and whatnot, there'll be enough land disturbed that we can do a little bit of moving dirt around. And as you see, we're proposing a roof that's very similar to the one that is on the main residence, plus a little nice added feature of putting a dormer on there as well. So they look like they go together.
Okay. Mr. McCulloch, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. So the existing, garage will be converted into a new home office and new storage area. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And is that currently, are there 2 levels to this garage, or is it just 1 level?
There
I
are
believe-
2 levels to that garage. Above the garage is a bedroom.
Is a bedroom.
Correct.
So that will continue to be a bedroom?
Yes, there will be no changes to the entire home apart from converting the garage.
And making it a livable space. We don't want the people in the home office to freeze, so it'll be insulated and the whole 9 yards.
Okay. And then you said the driveway, of course, will be removed.
Yes, as you see here, the proposal is to put lawn there, as well as, I mean, if you've been to the property, they have beautiful landscaping all over the place, and so we would continue with the same kind of plantings in that little area there, and the way that you would get from the house to the office would be, we'd make a small enclosed stairway that would lead down to the garage. To the office. No, it's not a garage, it's an office. Trust me.
Right. So I'm sorry, I haven't been to the property. So currently, is there a neighbor to the left or on the side where the current garage is? Do they also have a driveway over there?
That is one of the newer, like 1950s houses
Mhm.
with the included the garages in the house.
Tommy, I think you have a photo of that in your application packet.
Yeah.
I see.
It's hard to see here, but there is right to the left garages. The garage door is flush with the door and actually all parked right in front.
Mhm.
It's pretty
So-
similar. All of the homes in the neighborhood are pretty much like that one right there.
Okay,
Yeah, all this whole string going all the way down to the little cottage that's at the cul-de-sac. It's, you know, they're all the same. This is, I don't know whether you guys remember the Spies. The Spies lived over here.
yes.
So they did.
But then, you know, they're all, most of that, I would say a good half of the houses in this area are those 1950s styles with several, the older houses have much more character and you know, they're lovely.
Right. So there's a hedge that creates a separation from your property to the property to your left.
There's some low-lying bushes at this
Line
point.
bushes.
The adjacent property to the left is currently undergoing major renovations,
Okay.
and I'm not clear as to when those will be complete or their plans for landscaping.
I see. Okay. Okay. And then, so now you're going to move the garage to the other side, and that's going to be a larger structure than you currently have as a garage today.
It's a little bit larger.
Well, it can accommodate, essentially, when it accommodates one vehicle. But the width would be the equivalent of two vehicles based on your drawing.
Correct.
Okay, so it is a larger structure. Now, the garage itself has, you know, accommodate one vehicle. Will that be a two-story structure also?
No,
Okay,
no, I'm anticipating that the rafters will be open and the bay window, the dormer will open into the garage itself.
all right. Then you have this, this is it a 4 foot floor? What is this area to the left of the vehicle that's drawn into this? What is the intent of that space?
Is it this small area towards the rear of the rear left? Is that what you're referring to?
It's on the left, it's really towards the front, so it's not where the oil separator is, it's in front of that.
Is it that,
You have a door that leads in there.
right? There's the door, this is the walkway to the backyard and the pool and everything. And the first door would just, you know, it's always good to have a man door in case your electricity goes out and you can't get into your garage. And then the second smaller room, that's the actual equipment room
Right.
that would be insulated, have its own electric panel, and be vented through the roof.
So that man door, as you describe it, leads into what, a storage area? Is that what that is?
It would be probably where they park their bikes
I see. Okay.
and have you know, the obligatory Montclair sporting equipment graveyard.
I understand. So, by having this garage now on the right side of the house, would this create any kind of an impediment for your neighbor to the right?
I don't believe so.
No.
I don't believe so. It's their driveway. We're very we're far away from their driveway, and in fact, there's not even Yeah, unfortunately, they're blurred out.
Hmm.
They're shy.
The front of the proposed structure is going to be farther back from the side of the road than the front of our neighbor's house. And so if they look out their front door and look down the street, they should not be able to have any of their view impeded by this new structure.
And
No,
plus, we'll have the new trees there, or the new arborvitae there as well.
Okay, I see. Okay. All right. And behind this garage is the swimming pool area. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. You can't see it necessarily on this drawing, but the small square and circle right behind the garage is the pool pump equipment. And then right off to the back of this would be where the actual pool is located.
Mhm.
Right. Correct. And you can see that there it is.
Right. Okay. Right.
And then and this area to the left of the pool equipment is heavily landscaped with mature plantings.
And there is no pool house or anything like that.
No,
Is there any intent to have a pool house in that area behind this garage?
No,
Is there enough space that one could be accommodated if a future owner decided that they wanted to have that?
if you show the full site plan, you can see that we have a very large amount of property behind our home, which is relatively difficult to access, but provides a
it would be on the
Wow.
next page, Tommy.
We have a lot of space to build behind the house if they wanted to put a pool house.
I guess that's not it's on the structural drawings. You can see there's. Do you have the structural drawings there? Well, yeah.
Survey.
Oh, it's not. Okay, look at the survey. Sorry. See, I had everything clipped out so we could look at it on mine, but oh well. Look at the survey.
That's fine. I understand what you're.
Yeah,
Sure.
we have a
See,
lot
and
of
this-
space.
And the stream ducks underneath the property too.
Okay. So in your view, none of what you're proposing would represent an impediment to neighbors on either side of your property.
I
That's
believe
correct.
not.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Harris, do you have any questions?
Yes, did you mention earlier that there were two testing areas required by the DEP?
So the DEP, they have mandated, they hired a company to come out and do an investigation. And I lost track of the amount of wells that they drilled. I think they're up to 7 or 8 what they call monitoring wells. They are going to utilize the current, what used to be the potable well, which has since been disconnected from any water sources. They're going to recover from that. And that area is, if you're looking at this here, the tree right to the right of the front door, you'll see the 2 dots there. The one that, yeah, so if you blow that up, I can tell you which number it is. So here,
It doesn't.
yeah, the one that is right in the center of the screen is the current potable well, which is going to be converted and utilized as a recovery well. Additionally, there's one that's not on this drawing that was drilled since this drawing, I think, was made, which is in the current driveway. When those are the 2 areas where the bulk of the product has been recovered during their previous samplings. And so the plan is to connect those 2 with pipings under the ground and then attach them to the recovery system. The additional wells will remain in place until all of the oil has been removed, because they're needed for monitoring purposes to make sure that the oil plume is not moving. Now, currently, there's no environmental impact or no health impact to anyone on the property or surrounding the property, but of course, there is potential concern, which is why they're mandating the recovery.
Okay, so you'll just need one set of equipment.
One set of equipment, yes, which will be connected by pipes underground.
Okay, understood. And then just to kind of get my bearing, so the proposed garage, the back wall of that is going to be in line with the existing fence that,
Yes,
Right,
okay.
correct.
it will be exactly in line with the fence, and the fence will probably be removed at that portion so we can get the garage as far back as possible.
Okay.
Right, they'll carefully, the fence is in pretty nice shape, so they'll want to remove it carefully and reuse as much as they can.
Okay, okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Moore, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Ms. Martineau, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay. I have a number of questions, but again, like Ms. Harris, I'm trying to make sure I understand. So the effect of putting the garage where it is, the car that would normally go into the left side of the garage but can't because of the pumping equipment would be 5 feet and 3/4 inch, 3 1/4 inches into the front yard. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the very front of the entry area.
Yeah, which is consistent, if not less than the large portion of our current neighborhood.
Right, as that it's, I understand the reality of a lot of people park in front of their garage versus into the garage, and I
And
guess that's the-
truthfully, I've got these pulled back a bit. It probably is even less. It's probably a little bit over 3 feet. If people park, if the front of the car was over the drainage, the trench drain.
So, okay, when the pump and treat is done, 500 years from now or whatever it will be, but presumably a lot less than that. What becomes of that portion of the garage at that point?
So the DEP will, of course, dismantle the equipment and remove it, and then we'll be free to repurpose that as we see fit at the time.
Would you have
It
an
could
objection?
it could definitely go back to being another bay for another car.
Okay, because would you have a problem our putting a condition doing that? So at that point, the parking would be conforming?
Of course.
Okay. The Just so I understand, not really relevant to what you're requesting. So the former property owner, and this would have been like 10, 12 years ago, removed the tank and didn't discover that there was a massive leak that had occurred?
So the history behind this is someone, I think it was probably the DEP, detected an oil discharge coming in the creek in the Bonsall Preserve behind our house. Somehow they traced it back to our property, and because they had an underground storage tank, they were mandated to remove it. And during the removal, they found a leak, not in the tank itself, but in the pipe that connected the tank to the home. We were provided when we purchased the home a certification that all of the appropriate cleanup had been done with regards to the actual dirt and soil surrounding it. But there was no groundwater testing that was provided. Unfortunately, a lot of the records with the company who did the remediation were lost, ironically, in a flood. So we lost a lot of those records. And so that's kind of how it came to be. So we thought everything was good, but the potable well, which at that time only fed the exterior plumbing, which we used just for the sprinkler systems. When that pump failed and we had someone to try to come and replace it, we then identified the oil and had started this process.
So, unfortunate for you that no one caught on that they should test for groundwater contamination and just did the soil remediation, but that's over and done with now. The question I have in terms of the height of the garage is, why not just match the one-story portion of the house that's immediately, to the north of where you're proposing the addition? Why match the main part of the house when you have this one-story portion of the house that,
Well, that was probably an addition at some time at one point, and the roof is flatter, and it doesn't have as much, it doesn't really match that building doesn't really match what it's attached to either.
well, but
It's
it's there, and this would be, and the garage would be next to that.
Okay, but let's look at the photograph in Tommy's draw of the end of the house.
Deborah, do you have the height of the roof at that addition right there?
I don't have that.
Because I think that's actually pretty tall.
I can count the siding if you want. That's how I usually figure it out. But it's 1, 2,
3. I count 23.
okay, 23 by 8. It's 184 by 12. It's a little over 15 feet.
It's 15 feet 4 inches, is assuming.
Assuming that that's it could be it's either 8-inch or 8 3/4 inch siding. We'd also need to have an 8-foot tall garage door, which is also going to bump things up a little bit too. Because the eaves on this one are, well, so wait, the siding itself is a little over 15, but we've also got the base. So if you went from the grade, you're going to put another foot on it.
Plus the roof, yeah.
So you're pretty close to 16 and a half feet. And the plan was to try to match up the bottom of the eaves with the one next to with the new garage.
Yeah, my concern with having it too short is, I think, a lot of the accessory structure garages and the spirit of a lot of the zoning ordinances, if I can infer, is to try to minimize the adverse aesthetic impact of these accessory structures to the property and the surrounding property owners. And I think a lot of those, particularly with the zoning regulations as they are set forth, is for these structures not necessarily to be in the location where we are proposing that they are. My fear is that if we do have that shorter roof structure, that aesthetically it would not be in line with the rest of the house and it would look out of place. And this was something, especially, and I went up and down the street having conversations with every neighbor who could actually see my home. And their number one concern, once they got past the fact that there's oil floating around underneath our neighborhood, was that this garage is going to look like it belongs.
Right. It would basically function as a carriage house.
That was not a helpful comment. But you know, one of the
Which-
issues
the-
here
the-
is that one, I mean, we have approved literally scores of detached garages that have been able to maintain the 15-foot height limit and many of which came in saying we want to match the style of the house. So and this is a garage that is located further forward than would normally be permitted. And I understand your justifications for that, but the logic in my mind is to minimize the visual impact of the garage and not have it 2 feet or so taller than what would normally be allowed. My other question is, there's a street tree which your plans don't show where your driveway is located in relationship to the street tree. And have you done any measurements as to,
See, that's been mapped out on my drawings.
Can I add one more comment about the visual impact of the height? I completely understand your concern. You know, in my view, you know, visual impact is twofold. Part of it is the physical size of what the impact is, and the other part is what it actually looks like in the aesthetic appeal and how it fits in with the rest of the architecture and design of the surrounding structures which are already there. In my view, is that if we are unable to aesthetically have the roof lines match the main structure, the negative impact of that structure, even though physically would be shorter, that negative aesthetic impact is actually going to be greater. Just because of how bad our roof lines are. Our roof lines are extremely steep.
And the one that's on they're basically 12 over 12 on the existing house, and that little addition on the side is probably more like 8 over 12 or 6 over 12. So it would from the front it would look very odd.
okay, we're back to where is the street tree in relationship to the driveway? What is that distance?
It is 10 feet on either side.
Okay, so your drawing shows 9 feet 3 inches. And I'm not sure, is that measuring to the edge of the trunk?
Well, the trunks, you know, I'm just trying to keep, you know, enough space. You know, I'm being generous. I know the trunk's not that big around. So
It's a fairly tree,
the
but
the civil engineer is going to actually locate the trees. He hadn't on this one. We did. And so we can make sure that they, you know, what's your concern? I guess you want to, I mean, we're going to make it, we can also make the driveway a little narrower if we need to keep 10 feet away from the trunk.
no, you're kind of, you know, you're between the two street trees, and I'm not sure you know, this may be the best location, the best you can do. Given that, I'm just concerned with the impact on the root structure of the trees.
Understood.
Um, the and then the plans reference, where is this? So when the water is pumped and treated, where does it go?
So when it's pumped and treated, part of that oil separation system houses what essentially are oil drums, which will connect. Let me back up. So when they pull the contaminated groundwater out, there's a series of filters and separators that separates the oil product from the actual groundwater. The actual groundwater is pumped back in. And I can't provide you an exact engineering detail of how this is, but this is all per regulation with the DEP. That's actually pumped back out. It's a closed loop system. And then the oil is pumped into essentially oil drums, which are housed in there and then removed in a certain timely fashion as per the regulations of the DEP.
Okay, but you don't know, I'm assuming the water gets re-injected into one of the existing wells, is that correct?
Yes, but the level of
know which
engineering to
one.
tell you exactly where it's going to go, I don't have that level of understanding of the system. It's actually quite complex. But we have permits from the NJDEP allowing us to do this. We already have those. And the system has been designed with their input and oversight.
Yeah, the part, and it's not really related to your variance, but I unfortunately represent applicants who have these environmental problems, and my concern here is the length of time that the oil was in the groundwater, and its natural flow is going to be towards Pearl Brook, and which is not all that far away, as you know, and I'm concerned whether product has escaped and won't be impacted by your pump and treat. I think your pump and treat's going to deal with what's in what I'll call the front portion of your property, but and I'm concerned particularly because of the flooding events. Unfortunately, they clearly, when they pipe the stream that comes down Mount Hebron under Grove Street, under LaSalle, obviously that culvert is not designed for the current size storms we get. You can see the debris that washes up on Grove, and I know you're saying you have flooding problems, which is an effect of that, but I'm just concerned that it's washed away from your property, or at least away from the front portion of the property where the pump and treat. And you should ask either DEP or whoever the consultant doing this is to whether that's a concern that they should address, not you, but particularly since this was originally discovered by a Sheen in Pearl Brook.
So your concern is noted and has
Not related to your variance. Don't worry about that. I'm just saying maybe you should raise it. I'm somewhat puzzled that, since clearly the product already made it to Pearl Brook, that whether that's being addressed or not.
Well, they have done extensive ground flow analysis, and we have negative samples around the recovery area. Eventually, interestingly enough, the sample that they found in the brook and the sample that they found on our property actually did not molecularly match. So they don't really know where that initial one came. It was just a coincidence that they ended up finding.
Likely, ultimately anything from your property could have reached there or could be reaching there.
Technically, yes.
Okay. Any other questions from members of the board?
No.
Okay. Are there any members of the public who have any questions, statements, testimony, anything whatsoever you want to say? If you're watching on Channel 34 YouTube, here's the number. If anyone is surfaced on the WebEx, just speak up now. You'll be unmuted. But if you're watching on TV or on YouTube, call in the number that's highlighted on the screen, and we'll wait a while to give you an opportunity to do that.
Mr. Chairman, I guess while we're waiting for the public, perhaps we should revisit just a comment about that building and whether or not it potentially could be set up as a carriage house. Does it have that?
No, no. I take it back. I'm pulling that back in. I just keep thinking of ones that have been moved to side yards. Take it, it's a garage. It's not a carriage house. I take it back.
We just want the assurance that that's not going to be,
No, it's not. No, no, no. It's not going to become residential. No.
right.
Sorry. Sorry for that little bit of, yeah, sorry, sorry. It's just sometimes I talk more than I should. Is there how many Tommy, how many do we need the full 5 votes?
No, you don't need 5. You just need a majority of the 5 that are here. That's 3 yes votes.
Okay. Because we don't have a D variance.
Correct.
Okay, we're closing the public portion, and is there anything either of you want to say before we discuss and vote on the application?
And it's not required
What?
saying anything. It's up to
Okay.
you.
Nope.
I have no further comments. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, we'll start discussion with Ms. Harris.
I'm in favor of the application, in terms of the parking in the front of the front yard. I think it's, similar to what exists today and matches what, most of the properties in this neighborhood, have. So I don't have an objection with that. And I agree. I think the, reducing the garage height in this instance, based on the location of this garage, would actually be detrimental in terms of the appearance. So I would be in favor of these variances.
Okay, Mr. Moore,
I'm also in favor of the application.
Ms. Martineau,
I'm in favor, no additional comments.
Mr. McCulloch.
I'm also in favor.
Okay, let me go to the variances. I think, based on the location of structures on the property and where they need to have the pumping facility located, that, they have justified locating the garage, in the side yard. I think that, well, in theory, they could have made the garage even bigger to have a bump out at the rear for the pump and treat and fit the garage. I'm not troubled by the front yard parking, although I think we should put a condition that at such point in time as the pump and treat facility is terminated, that that be removed from the garage so a second car can fit in the garage. My concern is with the height, and we have gone through this with a number of applicants, and I'm not convinced that of the height of the existing one-story structure. So I'd like to do is propose a condition that it not exceed that height. I mean, they testified that it should be comparable, and and if both are measured in accordance with the ordinance, that, based on their testimony, is probably not greatly changing the height, if at all, of the garage. They would not exceed either the height that's proposed, the lesser of the height that's proposed, or the height of the existing one-story portion of the house. And that they also adhere to conditions 2, 3, the third paragraph of condition 4, Condition 5, some of which they've done, but were not part of the plans that had been given to us before tonight. Condition 6 and condition 7. So any further discussion among board members? Someone want to make a motion?
Can I ask a question?
Yes. I
Um,
should say no, but
so-
yes.
oh,
You sure you want to do this?
well, I just need to know whether that the condition that he's proposing would go into the resolution.
Yes, absolutely. That's where conditions go.
No, I understand that, but nobody else had that same comment. That's
Well, let's put it this way. The board has not taken action yet. So
Right.
someone's going to make a motion. They can include all of the conditions. They can say some of the conditions. We'll have to see where the motion goes. But it's likely that that would be included in the motion.
okay.
So let's have someone make a motion. Let's see where it goes.
All right, so I move approval of the application with the conditions as set by the chair.
Is there a
second.
second? Any further discussion? Tommy, why don't you call the rolls? It's only 5 of us.
Okay, Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. McCulloch,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Martineau.
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0.
And my condolences for having to deal with the oil, and it's just unfortunate that before you bought the property, this wasn't discovered and the prior owner made to address it, but always I'm sure you always wanted to have a pumping facility in your garage for a lengthy period of time. I'm sure it will greatly enhance the value of the house if you go to sell it.
Yeah, this is not something I wanted to do, nor spend all of this extensive amount of money to do it, since this will not be covered by insurance. I'm sorry, I'm just a little unclear as to what just happened. If somebody could help me explain this. So it is clear to me that we were granted the resolution to build the structure and for the parking. What is unclear to me is the exact requirements for the height.
You are going to go and measure the height of the one-story portion of the house based on the ordinance and either not exceed the lesser of that or the lesser of the height of the garage as proposed on the plans that were submitted.
Okay, and if
That will be included in the plans that are submitted for permit, and those will come to the planning office and we'll review them to
okay,
make sure
so
that they comply.
I understand, but my concern is that if this height ends up being lower than what is on these current plans, my concern about how this is going to look is significant.
And you can come
And
back here and ask for,
it was my understanding that we were able to argue, but we were able to potentially defer the vote if we wanted
No,
to.
Mr. Day, no, there's no, the board just took action and the condition that was opposed is the board's decision. The board understood your concern, but came up with this resolution of the matter.
But was I not entitled to defer the vote until we had more board
You were
members?
not, you were not.
that's only for a use variance where 5 affirmative votes are required. You just needed a majority of those of the board members who are here.
That was my misunderstanding of your process. My apologies.
And if you come back with a number that you're unhappy with, you can come back here and present additional information to modify the condition. Okay, board
Before
members.
before we move on to the discussion, I forgot to announce at the opening of the meeting that application 2796 for 192 Bellevue Avenue is being carried to the August 17th, 2022 meeting. That's all, thank you.
There'll be no further notice of that postponement, so if you're interested in that application on Bellevue Avenue, plan to be here at the August board meeting. Not that we have
Which
a
will
lot,
be,
but
it will
maybe
be
someone's
virtual
watching
as
on
well.
TV. Okay, so going back to meeting in public, which the Montclair local keeps saying we're doing, but even though we're not, but the rest of the town is, Tommy and I looked at the room. He sent a picture of how we can accommodate all of us and keep reasonable distances between people. I guess the question is, how comfortable do people feel? This meeting started off in a way that made me even more excited about having virtual meetings, and but how did the other board members feel?
I mean, I'm generally comfortable going back. It seems like all of the other boards and the council have gone back. I mean, Tommy, has there been any issue since they've returned to public meetings?
There have not been any logistical issues with the in-person, with the HPC meetings. That's the other board that I staff. So we haven't run into any issues.
How many members are in the HPC?
Currently, there are only 6. And the in-person meetings we've had, I think there have only been 4, 5 members. But they are not sitting spaced. They were sitting next to each other.
If we have a full complement of all of our membership, how many members is that?
At the moment, 9.
9.
And that would be then, in addition, it would be you, myself, and then the whatever applicants and members of the public would be present, correct?
That's correct.
Well, I'll weigh in. I think, I would also be open to meeting in person. So obviously, as long as there isn't a spike, that's something that we've been sensitized to. So as long as, we have the opportunity to draw closer to September to sort of assess what's going on, and maintain the ability to exercise a virtual option, I wouldn't be opposed to returning in person in September meeting.
I would just like to chime in and if we could talk about the process of providing notice for the applications requires that we would have to kind of decide now about September because of how early we need to send instructions for notices to go out. Deciding next month, we'll have to push that out to October. And I can look into the option of going back from in-person to virtual. I don't think that hasn't been done as far as I know with any of the boards. So I can look into that if others are interested.
I mean, I think we have to keep that as an option. I mean, as I said, when we first discussed this, I want to avoid that if at all possible, because it creates a great deal of confusion based on other towns where that has occurred. And okay, let me throw another curveball into this. I probably will have to be before the Folsom Joint Land Use Board on the 3rd Wednesday in September, ignoring the fact that the property owner has not yet signed the application, but I'm assuming that will occur in time for us to be on that. And as much fun as I had in June being in Folsom and doing that and doing this board, I am not doing it when I'm presenting. That was for an informal presentation. I'm not doing that when I'm doing a full use variance presentation for some obscure reason. My brain does not function that well to do two things at once. Plus the reception there was horrible. So we may end up, where are we, Tommy, with applications once we do what's on in August?
I think currently we have 4 or 5 applications potentially scheduled for August. And we just received, I think, 3 more applications today. So they're coming in pretty steadily. So we'll definitely have some for both August and September.
Okay, and to do notice for the first September meeting?
I have not sent any
when-
instructions for the September
When
meeting.
would you
yet
need to
anybody.
give instructions out?
Preferably at least a month in advance. But it can be pushed as needed. We can push it closer.
Okay, so if we tentatively decide that we are going in person starting in September, we still have a couple weeks to see if the numbers are back going up still and whether we should regress or march forward with in-person meetings.
Yes. So what I can do is when we get to the first application that needs to be scheduled in September and it's time for me to provide them with instructions on noticing, I can first email everybody and temperature check, I guess, to see how people are feeling, unless you have another idea.
I think, well, there are 5 of us here tonight. If anyone has strong objections to in-person meeting, now is the time to speak up. I don't want you just to not show up because you're not comfortable. So if, you're concerned, speak up now. And then I think, whenever, around the 1st of August that, Tommy, you're gonna need to do a poll of everybody and hopefully things will not have gotten worse between now and then.
I do have one question. Are there any requirements for mask wearing or testing prior to the hearings?
There's no requirements currently in the building for any of that.
And you'll keep paying attention in the event that changes, because the thought of everyone wearing masks in the meeting is probably worse than dealing with the WebEx problems we've been having.
Would it be less complicated for us to point towards the October meeting for the first in person? And just not have to deal with the complications that you might have, Bill? So it's coming off all the summer travel that people are doing. I'm just wondering if it would make more sense to just focus on October and not try to do September.
That's fine with me. I mean, we have 2 meetings scheduled in each month. I mean, I'm hoping we don't need them, but that'll give us some flexibility in the event, we only meet the first meeting in September, and then we can carry people to the first meeting in October and do it then. And give us, a little better sense of, I think even though this has not been totally predictable as to when surges are, I think the most likely time is when people are getting back from vacation and have been wherever and then start gathering. But I mean, I think that may be so that from any meetings in October, we would go public unless numbers get worse, and then we're not in a crunch with deciding and maybe having to switch. And hopefully things will be clear enough by end of August, beginning of September, that we'll know we're safe proceeding in person in October. So I don't know, do other members have thoughts? Okay, so tentatively, starting with whatever the first meeting in October will be, we'll go in person. Tommy, you'll see if you can find out what happened tonight with people getting on the system.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. The link that I sent was directly copied from WebEx, and I copied it multiple times. It's never happened before, so hopefully.
Tommy, the only thing I will tell you is the initial link didn't come to me and none of the reminders came to me. So I think if we see that happen again, we know we have a problem.
Yes, can I ask?
Yeah, Tommy, I didn't get any of the reminders either.
Okay, so has anybody in the past gotten reminder emails the night
Yes.
before and the night
Yeah.
and the day of? Okay.
And
I'm
I
not
got
sure.
one several days ago for this meeting, but I tried that link as well and it didn't work
Oh,
either.
the last one that came in was for the August 17th meeting.
Well, yes, that was because I just set that one up because I had to send notice instructions for that meeting. So I had to get the link ready. That's what that was. But yeah, I don't know. If it's worked in the past, it may have been a fluke. I don't think I set up the meeting any differently than I normally do, but I'll try to be very careful and make sure that all the options for reminders are checked, and also for the next meeting, the day of the meeting, I'll make sure to send the link out during the day just to make sure that everybody has it handy.
Yeah, but as I said, I tried the link you sent out, several days ago. It didn't work. I tried the link you sent tonight. It didn't work, and I started to cry. And
yeah, as I understand, it hasn't happened for me for either this board or the HPC, and I guess that for some reason the attendee link was working fine because everybody got in that way. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but hopefully it just doesn't happen again. I don't think our IT department really will know because I've asked them questions about WebEx in the past, and I don't think they're any more familiar with it than we are. So I can ask again though, but I don't know if there will be any resolution.
Yeah, South Orange is using WebEx. Why don't you reach out to whoever does their boards and see if they're having any similar problems, and if so,
Okay.
how they've dealt with it.
Okay, I will do that.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Have a good month.
Bye,
Everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Everybody.